Florida man is back at it again with a get-rich-quick scheme. Kevin may have flip-flopped on the greatest of all-time conversation, and the guys dip into music, documentaries, and more this week on Just Press Play.
The red wasp is after me. Pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way, because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So, the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay. All right. Look, I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week. I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
Boys, we are here. We're back with another Just Press Play episode. Thank you for tuning in. We got Pops and LJ with us again. Guys, March Madness, it is around the corner. What's up?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is. That's what's up. That is what's up.
I almost put it in so we could have the audio for it, that da 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 da. But I didn't know if we had like copyright issues, so I figured I'd let people hear me sing, because that's what they really tune in for the pod for.
Yeah, give the people what they want. Give them what they want.
That's what I'm here for.
That's an ombudsman.
But it's here. As always, Pops, you kind of mentioned this when we were talking before we started recording, but again, I always feel ill-prepared when this time of year rolls around, because there's so many conference championships going on, and all the, like, Kansas isn't going to win the Big 12 for the first time in, like, since I was born or something. I don't know.
Yeah, since you were born.
Forever. Yeah. But we do have some good news, Dad, because our boy, Ja Morant, Murray State won their conference championship, so he is for sure going to be in the tournament.
For sure. Good.
It was fun. I was watching a little bit. Murray State was playing Belmont in the conference championship, and both teams are like on the bubble. They maybe could get in as at-large, but Murray State probably wouldn't unless the selection committee just wanted to put Morant in there. But so he won, so they'll for sure be in, and Belmont might still get in. Both those teams are good Cinderella stories. And I wanted to ask you real quick on Morant, Dad. Do you remember? He was teammates. I thought you had said you read an article about him. There's been a bunch of good ones.
I did.
But him and Zion were AAU teammates. Why the heck did no one notice Morant was this? Or is this just come out of nowhere? Because he's a beast.
Well, the story went that he was discovered. Let's see, a guy went to watch another guy play
at like a big thing, right? There's a bunch of guys playing.
Yeah, a bunch of gyms, a bunch of different gyms, and the concession was in the other gym, and he was hungry. He went to get a burger or something in the other gym.
To go get a Snickers and a Diet Coke, and then
Yeah. And he saw, I think these kids were maybe playing 3-on-3 or whatever. And Morant was playing, and he just said, I just kind of watched him play a little 3-on-3, and I couldn't get enough. I thought, my God, this guy's really good. And that's how he kind of got discovered. He was just completely under the radar.
I heard the coaching, they talked a little bit about it during the game, but that wasn't even like the head coach at Murray State. That was just some random ass scout. And then he called the head coach like, hey, you need to get down here.
Well, I think that the deal in the article said you need to get down here before anybody else sees this kid, because if anybody else sees him, he's going to be a D1. Everybody's going to want him. So hurry up and get down here and check this kid out, and let's get him a scholarship potentially. And they did. So
well, and that's I heard the coach, they were talking about it during the game, like I said, when I was watching that conference championship. And I'm sure people will hear a ton about this since they made the tournament. This will come up in one of the games they play. But that coach called him and said, hey, you need to drive down here. The head coach was hesitant. He's like, I don't know if I want to drive, 3.5 hours to go watch this guy who may or may not, I've never even heard of him before. And then he went down there, like you said, they offered a scholarship, and the next day he committed to Murray State. It was like, I'm down to go. Let's ride. And now in his sophomore season, he's averaging 24.6, 5.5 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. And he's just putting on a show. He's a highlight waiting to happen. And he might be the second pick in the NBA draft behind his former teammate, Zion. So he'll be super fun to watch. I'm glad they made the tournament. But I wanted to, the reason we brought this up is because once again, the JPP pod will be hosting another bracket challenge. And for all interested in getting back out there, the defending Jake won last year, right? We got Pearl Jam was the defending champ.
Perlman. Pearl Jam. Yeah, old Pearl Jam.
So we are doing another bracket challenge this year, and it'll be any way you want to find it, we'll be posting a link through our Facebook. There will be something on our website right on the front page at jpppod.com or on our Twitter. There will be something everywhere, so you can find it and start filling out your brackets Monday morning. And once again, the winner will get a chance, if they would like to, they have a chance to come kick it with the JPP crew. And maybe that, I don't know if that's an opportunity or like you're like looking like
burden.
you're kind of, a burden. No, we haven't figured that out yet. But the winner will have the chance to come on the pod if they so choose. And also there will be a little prize for the winner. So we hope you all jump in and join us again. Last year, between the host of this pod, there wasn't much competition in beating us. A lot of contestants
I
did
think
that.
Last year we framed it as a beat us contest, and we lost big. so this time it's a win.
That was too easy. That was too easy.
Yeah, so this year it's not can you beat the JPP host, because the answer is probably yes. But the question is, can you beat the best JPP listener? And we shall see. I have a feeling that old Pearl Jam's going to come back down to earth. I think last year was not a
little fluky.
It was a little fluky. We'll see. Then again,
it was an anomaly.
Well,
it was an anomaly.
Kevin Malone says is the fluke is the most populous fish in the ocean. So if you're going fishing for a fluke, you just might catch it.
And anytime Kevin Malone's talking, I have my notes out. I'm taking notes. But I also want to throw out there, by the way, to anybody who was interested, if you want to go to some of the March Madness games. I know, Pops, remember we got to go, I think it was in Little Rock. We went to the first round of games. That was back when Derrick Rose was at Memphis and big old
man.
Dexter, was it Dexter Pittman? Was that his name at Texas? Big old center that was huge.
Yes. You know who else was there? Oh, the tight end, the guy that wound up being the great tight end in the NFL. That's
every tight
Seattle.
end?
What's
Jimmy
his name?
Graham.
Jimmy
Yeah,
Graham.
we watched Miami play. Yeah, Jimmy Graham was there.
He played for Miami. He was like a power forward for
I'm
Miami
telling you, that was
year. Yeah.
those were some of those experiences. You go for like, what did we have just day? It was like 2 days full of games, or was it even longer than that? I can't remember.
We went twice. It was like a Thursday, Saturday, or something.
And
like
it's
that.
just
Remember?
full slate
Yeah.
of games, and even the ones we saw Austin P play, and that's where I've learned that the student section of Austin P, they have a chant that's "Let's Go P," and that is just fantastic. I love that.
Well, I would see that sounds great, but I don't think I could afford to go with all of the extra prices that come with tickets.
Well,
you know?
that's why I'm glad you brought that up, LJ. That's why I want to tell you about our friends over at, they're friends of the pod, friends of the group. It's Tick Splits over on their website. They offer you tickets for any event you want to go to. It's unlike any other ticketing provider out there. They don't sneak in the extra fees and the unexplained service charges. At Tick Splits, the price you see is the price that you pay. So if you're wanting to go out there to a good March Madness game and watch just a slate full of good games, and maybe you catch Ja Morant if he's playing somewhere close to you, who knows, or Zion.
There may be a Pittsnoggle Award winner out on the court at that point.
You never know.
You never know.
There's a couple of guys I've watched a little bit that have a chance at the Pittsnoggle. We'll see, because you just never know until March Madness rolls around. But if you want to go and maybe see the future Pittsnoggle Award winner, you can go to ticksplits.com, and that is TIXBLITZ.com. Enter the promo code armchair at the checkout to receive 5% off your total ticket purchase. So get your crew together, go out, go watch. I'm telling you, it was super fun. It's a really cool event. Tickets really aren't that crazy, and you get to watch a bunch of different guys. Who knows? You might be watching the future star tight end play. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's worth
I
doing.
think actually last time, Dad, when we went, it was a while back. It was like when Coke Zero was first getting introduced. Do you remember this? And I think they were giving out free Coke Zeros because it was like,
Oh, I remember you guys came home from that being Coke Zero just shills.
It worked on us. Like ever since then, Dad was buying Coke Zeros every week on the weekend shopping service.
Yeah.
We went from a G2 family to a Coke Zero family.
Yeah, we did. You're right. You're exactly right. But isn't that the one Eric and Brian went with us, Kevin?
Maybe. I can't. Right? I don't know. I can't remember. I just remember that's how you know their marketing worked. The main thing I remember is Coke Zero was being offered, and I drank the shit out of it. Also, that was when me and Dad learned. I'll go ahead and give them a shout out. They're not paying us for this, but we learned about an ice cream called Dibs, and it was like remember those little ice cream cookie things? They were really good.
Is that the ones that they're
yeah, it's like a little ball with
Dippin' Dots.
No, it was like little balls, not like little balls like that, but like a Whopper size ball. The candy, a Whopper. It was that.
Yeah, not like a Burger King Whopper.
Yeah, no, not like a Burger King.
Because that's just called ice cream.
No, it was like little ice cream and little balls covered in like this chocolate cookie thing, and it was good. Good stuff.
All right.
Before we move on from March Madness, I also, if you're not going to the game, then you might as well be betting on the game. And there, if you're doing that,
where would you
got to
bet?
go over to mybookie.com. If you haven't signed up already, then MyBookie is throwing out a little extra cash to anybody that's a JPP listener. And there, if you go to mybookie.com and you put in the promo code JPP, they will offer you 50% deposit bonus to make sure that you have a nice little bankroll going when March Madness kicks up. And then you got to throw on March Madness is a tough time now because you go and put like the like -7. If you have a team -7, all of a sudden it comes down. Are they going to start fouling? Are they not going to foul and just quit? It's kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat, but it also makes it so fun because now every game, it might be the 10-7 game versus Buffalo and Arizona State, but you're on the edge of your seat watching because you got to go, is he going to foul here? The game's over. Don't foul. So
as if you needed more reason to get excited about March Madness, this will do it.
Yeah,
so if you're going to the game, you got to hit up Tick Splits. If you're sitting at home and you're going to be a degenerate gambler like myself, then you got to hit up MyBookie and hopefully you do better than I usually do because it seems like I end up coming back down to earth. But it's a great time, and main thing, I can't wait. March Madness is so fun. And Pops, we're going to be in Vegas during Conference Championship weekend, baby.
What?
Yes, we are. This
So
is true.
It's going to be a time. That's one thing. That's for sure. And on to some of the best and worst of the week. And I'll go ahead and kick it off. And this was going to be my worst, but then a new worst popped up. So I just moved over to my best because it's the best story. I know that's a weird way to intro this bad boy in, but it's my best because it's just the best story I heard over the weekend. This actually happened last month towards the end of February, but a Florida man was arrested after he stole some very, very valuable coins, some rare coins. But it's what he did after that really had officers confused.
Oh, I heard this.
So the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office says that a 40-year-old man named Shane Mealy stole these rare presidential coins, each valued at about $1,000 each. He then took the rare coins and he took them to a grocery store coin machine, like a Coinstar, and he dumped them all in there. And he got cash value for them instead of how much they were actually worth, which was a total of over $33,000. Instead, he got like $35.50 for the coins. Because Coinstar doesn't recognize presidential coins, so they gave him like they were quarters.
Oh my god!
He dropped them all in there, got face value. He walked away with like enough store credit to buy a couple of 12 packs, and then was arrested and charged with grand theft and then unrelated drug charges. It was fascinating to me to hear the unrelated drug charges because I have a feeling they were related. They were related. Charges.
They were related.
Poor,
oh my god!
I wish I could see the man's face when he realized those coins were worth how much? They were worth what?
Oh, it was well, and I was thinking because I heard about this too. And I was thinking about maybe the reason he did it is because it's probably. If you try to take it to a coin dealer, I bet they're relatively connected. If someone robs a coin dealer and we know that these coins are out there and this guy comes with the exact coins. So he went to the Coinstar probably to try to make sure it was the easiest way to not get caught with but he still got caught. Yeah. The idiot.
Well, yeah. What did he think he was going to put these coins in and get $1,000 for each one?
I think he did. He ended up getting about 100% less or 1,000% less, and and turned around and got caught.
And LJ, even if the guy at the pawn shop or coin collector isn't super connected to all these collectors, maybe he realizes this guy walks in with, I would, again, guess related drug charges. So I bet he was a little under the influence and walks in with these super rare coins. They're like, now, how the hell did you get these? Because I feel like you hadn't been collecting these your whole life, but you also do drugs on your as a hobby. Like I don't think that's how it works.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's $35.50. I'll see you later.
Yeah. And here's a 30-pack of Natty Light. I'll talk to you later. So it's really my worst, probably, as far as like the guy's decision making process, but it's best is in the best story I heard or I read all week.
It's pretty funny.
And of course it comes out of Florida. Why does the craziest shit just happens in Florida? I swear. I don't know what it is.
You know what? I know the answer to this.
Oh, here we
Of
go.
course, LJ knows the answer.
Okay, so there's a real answer. There's a real answer. I listened to, I think it was Radiolab that gave me this. Another great podcast. But apparently the reason is this happens everywhere, these kind of things. But Florida's reporting laws are that if you get arrested, it has to be put on the internet for fairness in reporting. So then reporters get a hold of the crazy stories, whereas in, like, say, Ohio, the reporters have to work hard to go through all of the court listings. They can't just search the jail system and see who's arrested for the dumbest reason that day.
So that's why we get the story of the guy who's arrested because he was trying to run someone over in his tractor, but the person outran him on his tractor. Right. Well, of course, I swear, Dad, I don't know why, but you just ask a random question and LJ may or may not. I don't know if it's factual or not, but he has an answer. I guarantee
He's going to come up with something, no doubt.
And it sounds good. It passed my test. So, all right, Pops, what do you have for your best of the week? Do you have something?
It's kind of hard. Yeah, it's hard to follow that up, and I'm going to give you one quick one. The time change happened this week. That was one of my best things.
Oh no!
Now, and I'm really torn about.
You might hear about this here in a second again.
Because yes, we lose an hour of sleep. Yes, we do. But it was
still recovering.
It was daylight till 7 p.m. tonight. That was so amazingly wonderful.
Whoop-de-doo. And I've been trying to sleep since 3:30 because I still hadn't caught up.
No, I do understand. I hate to lose that hour of sleep. I get you on that. But golly, I love it being daylight till 7. And it's going to be soon daylight till 8 and then daylight till almost 9. Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, man. I don't know if the listener, I don't know if you hear it in his voice, but the excitement on his face as he says this. I mean, he is just pumped. This is as pumped as he's been all week or all month.
We've talked about this for a long time. You know, people want to quit the time change, and that's
a bill.
The thing.
I know here in Arkansas, there's a bill being introduced to try to cut the change out. They don't want any more.
But they want to stay on standard time. I'm okay. Change the time, but let's stay on this time. I want daylight when I get off work. Of course, I've probably espoused that idea various times on this podcast, so I won't get crazy about it. But that was the best thing. And I took a long boat ride with my buddy Jay Cody, and his wife, Carrie Murph. I took a long boat ride at Little River. Oh, it was so nice. And the time changed. Great
Fantastic.
Weekend. Great weekend.
Also, I didn't time change come? I know we've had this conversation before, but it's kind of a daylight savings is for farmers, right? It started because of farmers, so they could have more daylight, or no?
I think you might have to go back a whole year in our archive to find the answer to that,
think
we have the answer.
It started to save electricity, didn't it? Because you could use natural light longer in the evening instead of turning on
I think you're
artificial
correct.
lights. I think it had something to do with saving energy, and as a byproduct, and I remember we talked about this as a byproduct. Golfing went up, almost all outdoor activities see a big boom.
And crime goes down because it's daylight longer, right?
Because it's daylight longer. Yeah.
I'm with you, Dad.
Well, wait, how do you know that? Wait, because crime also goes up in the summer months.
We did a research. We'll have to go back and look. We're talking about something a little that we don't remember.
Pops, this is why LJ makes some statement and we just go, that sounds right. We make some statement like, wait a minute. Let's do some research here.
Right. You're trying to tell me crime goes down? I don't know about that. But I do remember us talking about it. So it's probably, I'll listen to it, try to listen to it this week and see if I can get to the bottom of
I believe that's right. I believe it was odd that crime actually went down when daylight savings time was introduced. I believe that is correct.
Well,
we'll have to research that to verify. We'll have to validate that.
That's right now. You're hearing a little bit of half-ass research. We'll do some full research and let you know for real. But
I can tell you this research for a fact. Pops is much happier when it stays daylight longer in the afternoon.
Well, there we go.
That's a fact.
And I know that means everybody in the house is happier. When Pops is happier, the house is happier. So
it doesn't hurt. It damn sure doesn't hurt.
All right, El, do you have anything for your best of the week? I know you've been swamped a lot lately, but what you got?
Yeah. I feel like the universe listens to our podcast. Just periodically things will pop up that are just like straight up, obviously important people listen to this because the Broncos tried to pass this new thing.
Yes,
we'll see if it works out.
But I meant to, yes.
Yeah, so they're trying to pass where you can once per game instead of onside kicking, you can go for it on 4th and 15. So that we talked about that rule change. I mean,
So,
mine was a bit more extreme, but
I think LJ is the rule, and correct me, I might be wrong, but like it's if you're down in the fourth quarter, a team can one time. I think it's only once is what they're proposing.
That's what they
proposed. You get a fourth
yeah.
and 15 from the 35, and if you get it, then the drive just continues from right there.
Yeah.
If you don't, then it's a turnover on downs, but with the rule change they made to the kickoff that basically killed the onside kick this past year, I think I'm all for it. I don't know. Why
I'm
not?
absolutely into it. I actually
hadn't
think
heard
that's
that.
not taking it far enough. I think I mean, you can go back and get my opinions, but because I've definitely talked about that. But
Because there is an
that.
LJ opinion on this matter.
No doubt about it.
Rarely do you find an LJ opinion, but there's one in the wild for sure. The other thing is one of my favorite podcasts, Planet Money, just put out an episode on Zion Williamson and Starberries, and I just felt like you guys just straight up stole that from us, right? Like you just
Golly, yeah.
you listened to our podcast. And then the other thing, it rained. It rained.
So not only is the universe
Like liquid.
Mother Nature is listening to the podcast as well.
I said I'm tired of the moisture coming down in solid form, and she listened. She brought it down in liquid form. It was fantastic.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Makes me happy, El.
Did you, by the way, speaking of that Broncos proposing the rule change, did you also hear that, this isn't really, did you hear, but this is the same rule change. They took this, basically the AFL is doing this, or that, what is the Alliance
The
Football
AAFL?
League or whatever. Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
that. Whatever the new league is that really everyone got excited about for a weekend and then forgot that it's still playing.
I still want to get excited about it, but I can't find it to watch, and I'm too
Well,
busy. But
it comes like on
You know.
TNT, but it's all the quarterback play is so bad it's hard to watch. I mean, it really is hard to watch. But they have a rule where it's 4th and 12 from the 25 or 30 instead of onside kicks. So it's basically this rule that the Broncos promoted, which gets me to a point. A lot of people act like maybe or question, is it bad for the NFL that all these leagues are starting up? But actually, it always benefits the NFL when these leagues start up because they try these radical rules and the NFL can just go, ooh, this one rule that they did works. Like maybe we won't try everything they're doing because they're doing a lot of bull crap, but this one thing actually worked really well. Let's take it. And this one of them, I hope the NFL at least strongly considers this as an onside kick rule because it's also cool. Like 4th and 15 is one of the most exciting. Onside kicks used to be a really exciting play, but now the percentage of the team actually getting it back is like a 3% chance. So 4th and 15, you give me 4th and 15 with Tom Brady or something, I'm nervous if I'm watching as someone rooting against him, or if I'm a Patriots fan, I still feel really good. So I think that's an awesome rule. I think it'd be fun.
I do too. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so that transitioned us over to the worst of the week. And Pops, I'll start off with you. Do you have anything for your worst this week?
Yeah, but here's where I'm going to bring up the bad thing.
Uh-oh.
This is not fun, but my worst is I watched Leaving Neverland. And so
okay.
I watched the Michael Jackson thing about these two young men that have now come out and said that he actually did sexually molest these boys. And it's a very hard thing for me because Michael Jackson is the soundtrack of my life. I mean, he is
The
approximately
king of
my
pop.
age.
I mean, it was...
And I love his music. I'm not going to deny that. I love Michael Jackson's music. And after watching that, and I'm not sure where I stand on it, but it does certainly have me thinking, can I listen to his music now? And the whole art versus artist conversation that we've had in the past. Yeah. It was a devastating series. You know, Oprah Winfrey had a thing at the end of it where she interviewed the two young men that were the main proponents of the documentary. And I mean, I'm not here. It's about a guy that's not here to defend himself. Yeah. But I guess here was my point is he obviously, and he admitted that he slept with boys 12 and 10 and even younger in his bed.
Michael Jackson admitted
that? Michael Jackson has admitted that.
Just to be clear, he
didn't admit anything
happened.
He didn't admit anything happened. Yeah. But what I'm saying to you is that's weird. That's a little weird. Yeah. I just am telling you that if you boys had met Michael Jackson, and I would have been as starstruck as some of these parents, and I would recommend any of you go watch it because I mean,
I'm going to.
There's a lot of Michael Jackson did a lot of great things. He did a lot of great things for children. He did a lot of great things for people. But it is very, very possible, it seems, that he had this devastating sickness. It's a possibility. I'm not completely convinced because he can't defend himself.
Yeah.
But I there's no way I would have let one of you two boys sleep in the same bed with Michael Jackson as a 10-year-old, and he's a 40-year-old.
Well, I don't know.
I'm just,
did parents realize this was going on when their boys were there?
They knew yes, they knew the mom of, and one of the young men his guy's name is Will Robeson. He was the choreographer for NSYNC. I mean, he's big time. I mean, this guy won a Michael Jackson dance contest. Michael Jackson met him in Australia, brought him back over. His family got very involved with Michael. I think Michael did a lot of great things for him. Apparently, this Will would stay in the bedroom with Michael, and his mom would stay in a separate bedroom in Neverland, in the house. What? No way.
That's what blows my mind.
That's just not happening.
That's part of this blows my mind, like that a 40-year-old man's best friends were all 10 and 12-year-olds.
Well,
like, why didn't we question this more at the time,
well,
or did we not know about it?
But think about it.
Well,
Michael Jackson had no childhood.
We did, though.
He had no childhood. And so I can see where he was trying to recreate his childhood. I get that he's a different dude. I mean, I don't think any of us can deny the things he did with his plastic surgery, with the lightening of his skin. He's a different dude. There is no doubt about it. He was a musical genius as well. But I do think there was probably a dark side to him. I'm not totally convinced, but I would hasten all the listeners to go watch it and make your mind up for yourself about him. But I know I'm struggling with how I feel about him now. So,
well, LJ, and I want to get to you. So maybe I was a little misguided, but so it was completely questioned, because it felt like this wasn't questioned until afterward. It's like, why were we questioning this in the moment? And maybe we were.
Well, I mean, there was, the world's biggest trial at the time. It was as big as OJ's trial in the mid to late 90s.
And by the way, LJ, one of the kids that was on there, this Will Robinson, sat on a witness stand, and denied everything and said, no, this never happened. And now he's saying, yes, it did. So the trial that you're speaking of.
Well, and that's one thing. So that's why I do want to watch this, because I'm very interested. I mean, I don't know, like morbidly almost
intrigued.
It doesn't affect me in any, but I do remember doing my own research at some point and deciding that like that was all like just terrible stuff that happened to Michael Jackson. People took advantage of the fact that he's a weirdo, and so they turned him into a child molester. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way that I came across believing, doing my own research a couple of years ago. So I'm very interested to see this documentary that seems to have convinced everybody of the opposite of what I believe. So, I'm really interested in it. But I think to talk about your question about like art versus artist, this does also pose a different question than what we were talking about when we talked about it with old Snake Perlman, in the fact that, like, when you support Chris Brown, you're actually financially supporting his lifestyle. Whereas like supporting Michael Jackson's music now supports a lot of charities, and it supports the Jackson family, who's had a lot of issues.
That's a good point,
and
LJ.
could use the money.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about. I mean, I'm not saying like that makes it obviously a good thing to do, but it definitely changes the question to me.
Well, and that gets me to what I wanted to bring up, and the best and worst is just I think it's going to turn into our show, because I think I have a worst that's also going to turn into a segment for us. But that got me to what I wanted to bring up to you, Pops. And you say what he's not here to defend himself, but almost that might be better, because you know who is here to defend himself? And that's R. Kelly. And that's not working out too well for him. I don't know if you've seen, I watched a lot of that full interview, and I don't know who okayed him to do that, but that's not a great look for him to me. I didn't think it, he just put on a terrible show for himself. I think if anything, worse of him now. I mean, he got up and was shouting and pumping his chest at Gayle King. And then at one point he just is like, why would his reasoning for why he would do these things didn't make any sense to me. And I'm with you on the torn versus what to play, like art versus artist, because you're saying maybe you should play Michael Jackson because that benefits other people. This past weekend, shout out to my homie Lane was up here, and Lane loves some R. Kelly. Me and him, I've always loved R. Kelly. And I am torn. I haven't really listened. Right. Like, when he comes up on a playlist of mine, I skip it real quick, or I take him off of it because I'm torn on it. But Lane threw some on, and like Same Girl with R. Kelly and Usher, and that's our jam. We started singing it, and I still have a hard time, like, because I do love those songs, and those songs, I have so many memories in my lifetime of playing it and jamming with different friends, and when Ignition comes on. But it's torn. And now that R. Kelly is here to defend himself and what he's doing, it makes me even more against him. So I wonder if Michael Jackson was here to defend himself, would it be even worse? Because his allegations seem so true, and he's just like, lying to our face, because it seems like R. Kelly's lying to our face. He might not be. We don't know. I don't want to convict a man until he's convicted in court, but it seems like he's lying.
Yeah. I agree. And if you hadn't watched that Surviving R. Kelly documentary series, that's
right, both
a
of them,
really rough watch. That's
what he's responding to. A lot of this Surviving
that.
R. Kelly series, and if you watch it, Dad, it makes anything R. Kelly's done tough. I mean, it and to throw out there, you talk about Michael Jackson, and I think a lot of these people that are sick like this and do these things, this is not to excuse their behavior in any bit, but a lot of times this is kind of curated over their lifetime. And if you look at R. Kelly's lifetime, he has a weird childhood where apparently when he was when he was like 8 years old, his mom, like, he basically lived in a brothel and there was sex going on all the time. He was asked to film two people having sex at like 9 years old. Yeah. And he first had sex at like 10 years old. It's really weird stuff. And it's not an excuse to do this to other kids or human beings, but it is like.
But his perspective obviously is not what most people's perspective is.
And it raises the same. It raises the same questions we had about. You're like, why would a parent let someone sleep in the same room as Michael Jackson? But why these parents did? I think in a way that these parents aren't complete. They're on a lot of these interviews too, and I don't think they're completely innocent in their stance. And maybe they're not. Maybe they agree on that. I don't know, but they did basically give their daughters over to R. Kelly in hopes that it would start a career for them and raise a bunch of money for the family, and all they would hit stardom. Which I understand a little bit, because if you're a parent of a young kid who has a lot of talent, you think, well, if I let R. Kelly mentor this kid, the connections and everything else that comes with it, maybe it can be the platform they need. But maybe they didn't realize the darkness of what R. Kelly was and seems to be. I don't know. But
well, and I could say that I don't believe that the parents had. I mean, I'm not saying that they had no idea, but like, to think that it's as big as it now seems to me as it's been. I can't imagine somebody assuming that about a person. Like, that's something that, like, they might have thought this is a weird situation, but we're going to try to take advantage of him. But for them to expect, the house in Atlanta that he's got people locked up in, and the studio that he keeps people in 24/7, like, I couldn't imagine somebody assuming that to be the case about another human being. Like, I feel like you'd have to be a sad person to believe that somebody would be that way without having the evidence thrown
with
at
every lie. And maybe some of the stuff that R. Kelly is saying in the interview, which it seems to be a lie to me, but with every lie, there's usually a little bit of truth behind it. And he was, at one point in the interview, he's saying these parents basically said, here's my daughters. We just want to sell our daughters to you. Like, here's our daughters. You can do whatever you want. I just want to make fame. And so they almost gave I don't think, like you said, LJ, I don't think they realized the darkness of what was going to happen, obviously. But I think R. Kelly thought, that's a wrong thing to do,
even if you think it's a good situation.
Right.
But
I just think these parents deserve a little more, and I don't know, maybe not deserve, because I think they're getting it. And there's a lot of people guilty in this, and it's not just R. Kelly, I guess is where I'm getting to. And there's a lot of people involved with him that knew what was going on. I hate that young children and young women got treated. Like LJ said, Dad, that surviving R. Kelly stuff, it really put a different light on R. Kelly.
I want to watch that, but I want to tell you one other thing about this Leaving Neverland thing. What really made sense to me was both these guys said, when I realized that I needed to come clean about all this, was when I had a young boy, when I had a son. When I had a son and I saw what he was like at 7 years old and where his mental state was at 7 years old, and I realized that's when it started with me. I realized, I got to do something. I've got to do something. And that does make sense to me, because I think a 7-year-old, one of them alleged that between 7 and 14 is when all this took place. I'm telling you, a kid between 7 and 14, if he lied back then or did some questionable things, I mean, we've talked about that with Twitter and a lot of that stuff. A lot of that stuff can be excused. I mean, I can't blame a kid for lying at that age based on.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, victims of abuse also almost always go through a long stage of denial. That's just a symptom of abuse, is whether you remember it and believe it or not, you also tell yourself every day that this didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
And maybe a type of way to tell yourself that it didn't, and try to trick yourself into knowing that it didn't. So, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one to crack. And like you said, he's not here to defend himself. There's not going to be another trial about this. It's just a sad situation all
Well,
around.
and actually, I love what you said,
that we may
LJ.
never know the
Maybe
answer
in
to.
a way, I need to do some research. Maybe I can still appreciate and enjoy Michael Jackson's music because I think, you know what he did or whatever, he loved children and in a good and wholesome way, mostly for sure. And if by advocating his music or supporting his music helps children still in this regard or others, then hell, I want to listen to it still and support it. So that I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And that is something worth thinking about that I hadn't before.
Yeah.
It is tough. I think to wrap this up, and if y'all have more thoughts, but one thing it seems very clear to me, both of these individuals, and I'm not trying to give them a pass at all, but they were sick, and is with R. Kelly, but sick individuals. Like to be able to do some of the things they've done to other human beings, it's
Michael
tough.
Jackson's alleged. I mean,
Okay,
I guess R. Kelly is too still,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree with you that it is like just the idea of what went on in some of these places is like beyond my grasp of.
Yeah, right. It's almost beyond my
It's
grasp
tough.
of perception.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a tough deal.
Like, I think that I'm a terrible person when, like, I forget to take Pocket out for 6 hours. Like, I can't imagine how you live with yourself going through, you know.
Pocket's his dog, by the way. It's not like a child or
Yeah, I should,
just
I should clarify.
That's not another human being. That's his dog that he accidentally didn't make it home in
Yeah,
time.
let's get on something happy now. We need to get on happy time or something.
All right.
Yeah.
LJ, what is your worst of the week?
Well, I woke up Sunday morning and
Usually that's a good
I had
thing.
no clue what time it was because every clock in my house was different. And about every 30 minutes, I'd look down at my watch and not be sure if I'm late or early to everything. And I haven't caught up on sleep. I think I've gotten about 5 hours a night since the time change because my brain's just all messed up. I'm just saying, it's the damn worst. Oh, look, I get more sunlight. Whatever. Come on.
Well,
Let me sleep.
A little side best for you guys. This clock you see up behind me to my right over there. It is now right.
Yeah.
It's right again for the first time in a while. Because I never turned that one back because that's more of a decoration clock. It's not like I don't really use it to like, oh, I'm late for work type of thing. But I looked up after daylight savings and was like, oh, hey, look, my clock's right. It's right for the first time.
And hey, so to solve your problem, LJ, let's never change time again. Let's stay on this forever. I'm
Agreed.
good with that.
That's fine.
I
Just
agree.
stop
The
changing.
change,
That's all I
the
want.
change
Just
is
stop
what's a
changing it.
pain in the ass. I prefer this time to the other time. It's the change.
Should we take a moment, Pops, just to be happy and for all the listeners out here, just take a moment to realize LJ's fighting through a lot here. I know everyone's dealing with this time change, but LJ is dealing with lack of sleep. You know, he can't tell if he's late or early. He was late to the podcast today to start recording, but he's here. he's here and he's battling it through it just for you guys and us here, Pops. So
Yeah.
I just want to give LJ a second.
You know, thank you, Kevin. And if any listeners want to send sympathy cards to me, just email the podcast. I'll give you an address.
and close money.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah. Hey, do that.
now we're talking. All right.
Yeah.
I want to get now on to my worst of the week, and it's a big right now. So we're recording this as of Monday night, and it's the start of the new league year, and free agency is going crazy in NFL. And we're not going to get into too much free agency because there's so much stuff happening. By the time you hear this, there'll probably be more stuff going on. But I wanted to touch
Oh my
on
God.
the big thing over the weekend, and that was the Antonio Brown being moved from the Steelers to the Raiders. And my worst is kind of the whole talk has been, did Antonio Brown win or lose this? All this stuff about what he did and how he got his way out of it. Can we just mention for a second that the Steelers somehow lost arguably the best receiver in all of football and the best running back in all of football? And you know what they got back? A third and a fifth round pick.
Big
Third and a fifth. And $21 million in dead cap that they're paying Antonio Brown to not be on his team. And I even further on that part, I was reading Bill Barnwell for ESPN has this great article out where he talks about, just breaks down the whole trade. And he talks about the way the Steelers handled this Antonio Brown thing and trading him when they did. They signed him to this extra incentive deal at the beginning of the year to try to give him a little bit of money, but they restructured it weird. And if they had any thought that he might not come back, they could have not just not done that, and the dead money would have been $10 million. But instead, it's $21.2 million, which is the most historically anyone has ever paid anything in dead money. So I just want, my worst is the Steelers just handled this atrociously. And on top of that, their GM doubled down when Antonio Brown made the comments about big men. Their GM was like, well, he made the weird comment where he's like, well, we basically have 52 kids and Ben Roethlisberger is like the dad. And he basically said Ben Roethlisberger can say whatever he wants to say. And because he's the leader of this team. It's like, what? It's a 53-man roster.
Well, it's a good thing they kept the 37-year-old quarterback that's always hurt.
So now
I'm glad that they've got that going.
So now the Steelers have $21 million in dead cap. They don't have the best running back in the NFL. They don't have the best receiver in the NFL. But they do have 37-year-old big men who, depends on who you ask, LJ or Uncle Tony, may or may not be any good. But he's getting paid like $25 million a year because he's a quarterback. And
I was about to say, I think he's the only person on that roster that gets paid more than the dead cap space left behind by Antonio Brown.
I mean, it's just the Steelers just handled this terribly. But I also want to ask you guys a question. Are the Raiders a genius? Are they back, or is John Gruden done? Like a third and a fifth, if you'd have told me a third and a fifth for Antonio Brown, kind of sounds decent, right? Or no? Am I crazy?
So they got Antonio Brown for a third and a fifth, and they traded Amari Cooper for 2 firsts. Now, I mean, that's what's interesting to me, because so Amari Cooper is 24, Antonio Brown is 30.
Right.
They're
paying Antonio Brown the big money. They're giving him. He got his raise.
Amari Cooper is 6'1", 211. Antonio Brown is 5'10", 186. But you could probably throw that out because Antonio Brown is one of the best receivers in the NFL. I mean, I think he is a Hall of Famer. I think he will be in the Hall of Fame.
If not the best receiver right now, he is one of the best. He's in the top 3 category. He's on his way to Hall of Famer for sure. All of a sudden, that Amari Cooper trade, like you said, Pops, it looks like, because they also, for part of that trade, they got the 2 firsts, but they gave away like a fifth or a fourth, like a mid-round pick. So they swapped mid-round picks and got 2 first-round picks and Antonio Brown for Amari Cooper. Seems not bad. It doesn't seem bad.
Not bad.
They also dropped the Defensive Player of the Year from a couple of years ago for money reasons, though. So, I mean, it's not just a trade for, if you're thinking about all their trades, it's not quite as clear as Amari Cooper for Antonio Brown.
Well, yeah, right. You're just talking about this one trade, but you're right. Khalil Mack is that's a whole different story.
Well, that's what, before this started happening, the Raiders were kind of rumored. It was going to be hilarious that if the Raiders would have traded like a first-round pick for Antonio Brown to pay him $18 million a year, but just 6 months ago they traded away Khalil Mack because they weren't going to pay him for a first-round pick. It would have been interesting, but they traded a third and a fifth. Like, they didn't give away the first that the Steelers were wanting. I thought they kind of fleeced the Steelers. And Antonio Brown played his way out of there. He did what he was trying to do, and we can touch on that in a second.
Everything I've read also implies that they are the target for Le'Veon Bell, too. So
they're one of, there's like 3 teams, and they're one of the ones, and they have a lot of money. They definitely could.
Say what you will about the Khalil Mack trade, but they did clear up a lot of room with that move. So,
and there's a lot of talk about. It was interesting. Derek Carr was out on Twitter, like he retweeted something with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown put out like Raider Nation. He put like, let's get it. But there's also a lot of talks that the Raiders might be using all those first round picks to go get Kyler Murray, and that maybe Gruden doesn't like Derek Carr. I don't know about all that, but it was kind of like what we talked about with the Amari Cooper trade for the Cowboys. It was kind of the Cowboys' way of seeing, is Dak worth the money or not? And they did go whatever, they went 7-2 with them, so maybe so. But this is Gruden's way of saying, if they do stick with Derek Carr for a year or they go get Kyler Murray, at least they gave him a bona fide number 1 to play with. So there's not an excuse of no receiver to throw to. So the Raiders seem like they're winning a little bit, and if nothing else, their billboard for the Raiders right now was John Gruden's face and nobody else. So at least, say what you will about Antonio Brown, I bet that jersey, if not the number 1 selling jersey, an Antonio Brown Raider jersey is going to be a high selling jersey. People are going to love that. He's very marketable. You can throw him up on a billboard. I hope if he gets thrown up on a billboard, he gets rid of that mustache, that blonde mustache he's been doing. That's a weird look, but he's marketable.
I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Mr. Big Chest being in Vegas though. That
could be with a lot of guaranteed money.
That's a little scary.
If nothing else, it was a big win. So the other big argument going on is not just the Steelers Raiders who won, blah blah blah. It's Antonio Brown and players' empowerment going on. And
yeah, I mean, I was going to say he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer in the NFL Players Association Hall of Honor.
It is funny the way you watch.
He owns.
It's really, Twitter is the players are all like, shout out to Antonio Brown, shout out to Antonio Brown. And it is interesting to go back and look. So I know it sounds weird to say Antonio Brown was underpaid at Pittsburgh because he did get millions upon millions of dollars. But if you go look at the way his draft process was handled, and again, this was in Bill Barnwell's article that he put on ESPN.com, but Antonio Brown was drafted in the 6th round, and the way at the time the CBA was done, he has 6th round picks get 2-year contracts. So after his 2nd year, the Steelers were going to extend him. Normally, if you're on a rookie deal, you get 4 years. So they extended him, but it was kind of before he became that guy, like the top receiver in all of football. And from after he got extended 2012, 2016, he was the, I think, number 1 receiver in catches, touchdowns, targets, everything. And he was, but on that same time period, he was the 11th highest paid receiver. He was behind Pierre Garçon and Dwayne Bowe as far as how much he got paid between 2012 and 2016. And it was because they locked him up right before he became that guy, like the stud that he was good, but then all of a sudden he was the stud, and he deserved.
He signed the contract. I mean, he did sign the contract. You're right, Kevin.
Interestingly, the Patriots had the same situation kind of with Rob Gronkowski earlier. They signed him to his extension early after his 2nd year, smartly, because they were like, oh, this guy's really good. We think he's even better than he's actually showing. He's really important. So they locked him up. But what they did multiple years in advance, they would go, well, to keep our star tight end happy, because he is what makes this offense go, other than Tom Brady, of course. But they would give him incentives each year where it wasn't guaranteed money. But if you stay healthy and get a Pro Bowl or get 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns, they kept upping his incentives. The Steelers don't do that because the Steelers say it's organizational policy. But sometimes when you have talent like Antonio Brown or Rob Gronkowski, you got to throw out organizational policy and pay him the money. And I kind of think shout out to Antonio Brown. It seems the more I hear about it, it sounds like Ben Roethlisberger is the only one that gets money and he can say whatever he wants to. And the other guys, they're like, nope, shut up. You just play football. You're not our quarterback. And it worked out. It worked out for him.
Well, but that's why. So
he got his money.
One of the things I think, though, based on that, is that I don't think Antonio Brown's move was all about the money either. I mean, I don't think he's like shirking on his contract in the same sense as like he's got a team that seems to only support one player on the team and seems to not really care about the if Antonio Brown gets hurt, then they'll say, well, we've got Juju, so it's no big deal. And if Le'Veon Bell sits out, they'll say, well, we'll pick up James Conner. It's no big deal. And they don't get that same level of respect as Ben gets. Now, I mean, I think it's worth arguing that maybe Big Ben has earned that respect because they do seem to perform when they lose a star player, as much as I don't want to admit it. But yeah, I mean, I think like Antonio Brown leaving that team, it's I don't feel like he's necessarily just like,
well, yeah,
I don't know, Ben.
You make a good point because his interview that he had with ESPN like a week or two ago was like he basically said it's not as much about the money because if they don't want to trade me, I can retire right now. I've made so much money, more money than I ever thought I would in my life. My house is paid for, my cars are paid for. I'm okay. But I think I'm sure the money's nice. The guaranteed money that the Raiders are throwing is probably great.
You never have enough of it, that's for sure.
I think you're right. He wanted to go somewhere where they value him the same they value. Like he is as talented a player on the Steelers, just like Le'Veon Bell was. And it was very clear. The Steelers made it clear there's Ben Roethlisberger and everyone else will value at a certain level. But if I'm Antonio Brown, I'm kind of like, you know what? I do want you to value me like I'm as good as I am. I get that.
But shoot, if he would have gone to the Bills, though, he would have been the number 1 player on his team. He would have been, compared
people
to...
forget. I hate it. All the people forget. Like, if you happen to go to sleep Thursday before 10 p.m. or at 10 p.m., you don't even realize Antonio Brown was a Buffalo Bill for 2 hours because Ian Rappaport reported that the deal was done, and Antonio Brown was on every social media platform going, no, it ain't. There ain't no deal. There ain't no deal. I ain't no Buffalo Bill.
Well, I want to say this because you brought up JJ Smith-Schuster. I want to see. Let's just see how good he is without Antonio Brown on the other side of the field.
That's fair.
Schuster's he's a great receiver. I do think he's got a lot of promise, but I'm telling you, without AB on the other side of the field, I don't think Schuster's going to do what he did last year.
That actually is going to be fascinating because, if you look at yards per game since he became a full-time starter, he's like fourth, or I think he's fourth behind Antonio Brown, Hopkins, and Julio Jones. And he's also not getting the targets that those guys get because they're the number ones, but he's also not facing the same coverage that they get. So I think you can argue either way. And that's right. If nothing else, he's got a year full of opportunity because this is his chance now. Like he's got it.
Him and James Conner. I mean, so Conner too. So I'm telling you, say what you want. Le'Veon Brown being able to catch out of that backfield, pass block, run the ball between the tackles, run the outside. He's a better back than Connor. I mean, there's just
no doubt. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
So let's see how they do with Connor and Schuster. And
the Steelers have a pedigree of drafting good receivers, not as much of late, but I mean, they drafted Antonio Brown in the 6th round. They got Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Wallace. They've drafted these guys and they've been good and signed big contracts elsewhere. And they seem to, and then Juju Smith-Schuster now, and we'll see what, like, they got James Washington at Oklahoma State 2 years ago. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe they're great. And maybe they are just fine. But either way, they're paying a lot of dead money. And if nothing else, they've shown future players that if you're not a quarterback, you're not as important to us. And I don't know how that works from a free agency moving forward, because that might affect them a little bit.
Could affect them.
And they've also shown other players, if you whine enough, then we'll do whatever you want us to do.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown really
walked themselves up a tree and don't know how to get down.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah. They screwed themselves and kept thinking, we got him under contract. And Antonio Brown, I wonder if what happened was Antonio Brown finally threw Big Ben under the bus, like completely under the bus. And that's when Big Ben went to the ownership, was like, nope, we got to trade him now. I don't care what y'all want to do. I don't care what the contract is. And then they got a 3rd and a 5th for arguably the best receiver in football. Has a chance to put up maybe the best stats anybody's ever done. I don't think he'll reach Jerry Rice, but he's going to be up there as far as top receivers ever if he keeps going, and he's 30, so maybe he falls off that.
Hey,
3rd and 5th doesn't seem like near enough for him.
Let's see what you got, Big Ben. Bring it. Okay, here's what you want. Bring it. Let's see what you got, LJ. This may be your year to really talk smack. So we will see.
Uncle Tony is licking his lips right now. He can't wait to draft Big Ben first round of fantasy football.
He'll have until the 8th if he's in the league with me. So there's no rush to pick up Big Ben.
I think Big Ben will be there for a while this year.
All right, Dad, I wanted to switching gears to a different sport here, and we haven't touched the media in general has touched plenty on it. If you've watched listened to any sports podcasts, radio, TV, you've heard a lot about the Lakers and LeBron James. But I kind of want to touch a little bit on it with you, Pops, because it looks like he's, I guess technically as of tonight, Monday night, they have a chance at making the playoffs, but it's pretty much, it's done. Yeah, I mean, they need the teams ahead of them to lose out and they need to win out. So basically they're done. They've already shut down Lonzo and Brandon Ingram for a scary injury that is like blood clots. I hope he's okay moving forward. But either way, they're not going to make the playoffs. And I wanted to bring up to you, Dad, I don't know for sure, but I feel there's a shift going on in my head right now, and it's the LeBron Michael Jordan debate kind of. And I was always LeBron's definitely he's more complete player, blah 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 blah. But the first year LeBron is in the Western Conference, he doesn't make the playoffs. I just don't see Jordan not making the playoffs. I mean, I understand not making the finals maybe, but that's wild to me. But then I did do a little bit of research, and I wanted to ask your opinion, Dad. So LeBron was in the East all these years that he did 8 or 9 straight finals, which is crazy impressive, and it's wild. But he wasn't in the West. Has clearly been a superior conference throughout this time, and then he gets there and he doesn't make it the first year. I was looking up a little bit of Jordan stats, and when he started winning all the championships, where was like the Eastern Conference at that time? Because I feel like when I looked up Larry Bird, that was like his last little 2 years when his back was falling apart. And then the Pistons were kind of starting to dwindle down, and maybe Jordan is a reason for that. I don't know. I was going to ask you, is it comparable, the Eastern Conference he played into the Eastern Conference that LeBron had been playing in?
That's a good question. That is a broad question, and I think I'm going to answer it the way I want to, which is not going to be the question you asked. I'm going to completely not answer your question.
Okay. Okay.
I think what LeBron did, what Jordan didn't do, what LeBron did is he tried to be the general manager of a team, and he went to LA and he put. They were winning, were they not? Before he went out with the groin injury, before all this, they were like 4th or 5th. They were 4th or 5th
in the West, so they were in the hunt.
But so let me just say, so Kevin, you're the host of the podcast, and if you start talking about, well, I'm going to trade LJ and Lifford for Tony and a guy to be named later, are we going to try? Are we going to give a damn? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those guys don't give a damn anymore.
LJ's going to be editing the podcast and literally just be like, all right, it's good. It's good. I don't know how it sounds. It's good.
Well, that's what out. LeBron went in there and he literally not literally, he figuratively killed the team.
Well, and that's what I wonder how much I think there's
not literally. Thank you for. I caught myself. I'm like Charles Barkley. I caught myself.
I appreciate that.
There's some thought to, like the team, because I wonder who to give blame for LeBron not making the playoffs. Because to me, even though LeBron's putting up great numbers this year, I think I had it pulled up. He's like averaging, because he's LeBron, he's averaging 27, 8 and 8 or something, like another great year. But
he's LeBron.
But the team that they put around LeBron, it's like, LeBron's great with shooters, and they went and got Lance Stevenson, Rondo, JaVale McGee, Michael Beasley. I mean, it was ridiculous, the team they put around him. And you can't tell me there's anybody who's out there who's like, well, the Lakers screwed up because they didn't put the right team around him. LeBron had some sort of say in the team that got put around. There's just no way he signed that contract.
Can I just say,
yeah.
Can I just say, in defense of LeBron James, he's had trouble managing his loads lately, and I have on good authority, is suffering greatly from the time change himself. So
he's getting put on. Actually, for the remainder of the season, he's getting put on a minute restriction, and they're not going to play him as many. Probably because this time change is really affecting him, especially being on the West Coast. I'm sure.
Saying,
Hey,
Bron, I feel your pain. I feel your pain.
Well, and Dad, that's what I wanted to bring up. Another thing I found interesting when I started looking at LeBron and Michael stats, because I started to find myself, at least if nothing else, I was starting to say maybe it's a toss-up, and maybe Jordan is. I should quit saying LeBron is just better than Jordan and being so adamant about that. But I was looking at LeBron's age 34 season compared to Jordan's age 34 season, and LeBron statistically is much better. However, Jordan that was Jordan's final championship. That was when he hit the shot over the Jazz or whatever. I think that was that final one. And so, but then after that, going forward, Jordan's years past that did not play, then came back to the Wizards and was a shell of Michael Jordan. He was still decent. I mean, people forget that he averaged.
I think he still scored.
He averaged 23, 5, and 5 or something.
So.
He was still pretty damn good, but. He didn't make a playoffs again after his age 34 season. So is it safe? Is it fair to compare them to, or is it not? Because Jordan did retire as a champion. Like, he might have still won another championship or two if he stays playing. It's hard to compare the end of their career, I think. And I think it's possible LeBron's career, we've seen the best. He might not make another finals ever again.
Well, that's what's a shame about this, because LeBron cannot afford to just cash in a season at this age. And this is a lost season. And I mean, he's got maybe two left, and he needs to sign. Here I am talking about he's the general manager. It seems of the team. That's what he's acting like. And I wanted to say this earlier. You look at Golden State when Draymond and KD kind of got into it. They went on a little bit of they didn't do very well for a while. And then I think there was something else happened recently, and they haven't done very good. They're the best team they're in their prime. They're the best team maybe ever, combined talent, but it's team chemistry. You still have to have some team chemistry. And LeBron killed it. LeBron and Magic killed it when they tried to get Anthony Davis and didn't get him. That was mishandled. I'm telling you, that's in hindsight. Obviously, I don't know that I would have done it any better foresight, but they killed that team when they did that. And it cost LeBron a season that he doesn't have time. I
just want to say, I'm still somewhat of a LeBron stan, and I want to throw this out there that LeBron made those straight finals, whatever it was, 8 or 9. He's clearly not making that streak's going to end this year because he's not even going to make the playoffs. But the teams that he played in the finals every year, to me, and I didn't watch near as much during Jordan's run, but he played superior teams in the finals than Jordan played in the finals. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say, but
these Warriors team, no doubt.
I want to tell you that the thing that Jordan had to overcome was the Detroit Pistons to get to the finals.
Early in his career, though.
The Detroit Pistons.
Where were they at towards the end? Were they still there? Were they still the same bad boys Pistons when he was winning those finals?
They were, but
I'm asking.
No, I'm telling you, they were getting old, and Jordan was still in his prime. I think that, and Jordan willed them to win. He willed the Bulls to win. Look at those Detroit Pistons team and those Chicago Bulls teams. The Detroit Pistons had better talent. They had better coaching. Well, except when they were beating him, or once Jordan even when Jordan finally overcame him. I remember seeing Jordan walk out of that stadium 2 years in a row when he was the best player on the court. There was no doubt about it.
And like I said, I looked this up, and while it did look like Bill Laimbeer was getting old once Jordan started beating him, Isaiah Thomas was still at peak Isaiah Thomas. He was still a beast. It wasn't like
Joe Dumars was still a beast.
Yeah, I don't want to act like the Pistons were completely done and he was playing some like limping Pistons team. There was still maybe the best point guard of all time, him and Magic, but Isaiah was still that guy. So I don't want to.
So I think the year that he beat Detroit finally, and I say the Chicago Bulls beat Detroit, they were still in their prime. They were good. I mean, that was just Jordan and Scottie Pippen. I don't want to sell him short. Horace Grant.
UCA.
Absolutely. From, he's from Southeast Arkansas. Dumas? Where's he from?
Yeah.
Somewhere way down there. Anyway.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Listeners, or if you want to know more about Scottie Pippen's lineage, just catch a podcast with Dad and I.
We'll
talk about Arkansas.
But
school player.
I just want to say that when Jordan and the Bulls beat Detroit, they were still good. They were still super solid. And then once they got it, it's kind of like I could never bench press 300 pounds. I did it once and then I could do it every time. Yeah, I could do it. Then I could do it I couldn't do it today, but once I did it one time, it's a psychological thing. And when Jordan got over that psychological hump of beating the Pistons, then they beat them the next year. And then I don't even know if they made the finals the next year. But
yeah, I mean, it's part of to your point, like LeBron had that same issue with the Celtics earlier in his career when he couldn't beat the Celtics big three when they had Pierce, KG, and Ray Allen.
Right.
And then once he did the Celtics, he didn't have that. It was just like, oh, that's just another team. They're old. Before it was like they're good, wily vets. And then once he beat them, it was like, oh, they're old.
It's like Mike Tyson. When Mike Tyson got beat by Buster Douglas, then everybody knew he was vincible. He was not invincible. So he could be beaten.
Invincible.
Yeah, he was invincible.
I like that. So I am getting a little, the argument is a little, I will entertain that argument with people because before it was like, oh, you're crazy. LeBron's better. You're just living in the past. There's something about, and I was watching some old MJ videos and actually I was reading, shout out my main man, Shea Serrano was chronicling in his book, the book about basketball and other things. He was chronicling the 5 best Jordans of all time. And when he was rattling off some of the playoff runs that Jordan went on, oh my God, that dude was insane. Like we talk about willing to victory. He was doing some stuff that was insane. But that argument's interesting and it'll always be interesting. And I just hope, like you said, Dad, I hope LeBron now wasted a year of his career and he's going to be 35 coming up. And it will be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. I know LJ hates this. He's rolling his eyes now, but I don't know if you're a free agent, do you really want to go play with LeBron? Cause how many more, it's got to happen eventually. He's played 16 years. He's been in the playoffs and the finals every single year, and he also played USA basketball. There's just a lot of miles on those knees. A lot of miles
on those knees. And so Anthony Davis, is he going to go to, for 2 years? And then what do they got?
Yeah, what happens if all of a sudden 2 years it's Anthony Davis and aging LeBron, and you traded all the assets to go get Anthony Davis? There's nothing else around him.
Exactly.
And clearly this front office has shown they don't know. Like, if you go look back at what this front office has done for the Lakers, every guy they've traded away seems like they're really, really good. Like D'Angelo Russell is balling over at Brooklyn. Julius Randle, they didn't sign him back. He's balling in New Orleans. And instead they have Michael Beasley, who's now playing overseas, and Lance Stevenson and Rondo. It doesn't look like that front office is near as good as people give him credit for.
Well,
it's LA.
And Kevin, real quick, something you kind of said quickly, this Brandon Ingram thing, whatever he's got, that was the biggest.
It's the same thing that Chris Bosh had.
Yes. And this could be detrimental to his career. I mean, it was detrimental to Bosh. And that was their biggest, he was in every trade that was talking about for Anthony Davis. He was every trade they talked about. And now he may not. He has something.
Serious. It's like it's a small blood clot in his arm, and they don't know. It could end up being, hopefully for his sake, because I mean he's like 22 and super talented, and he could end up being healthy and coming back. But it is scary. This is the same thing that happened to Chris Bosh, and all of a sudden they realized it was recurring, and you have to put these guys on blood thinners, and to put someone with these blood thinners on the basketball court, I mean, they're risking their life every time they go on the court. And if you're a team, you're not rightly so. You're not willing to throw a guy out there who's risking his life for a W one night. I hope he comes back just for his sake, because there's a lot of promise and potential in him. But like you said, Dad, it's scary. He's like the prime target in any trade that they do, and we don't know where his career is headed. So
now he's not that he's not as enviable a person to have now with that issue. So it's going to hurt the Lakers.
Real quick, guys, before we sign off and do our what we're listening to, I gotta acknowledge maybe it's one of the best comments I've seen in a while over on our website for our Wiggle Juice pod, which was I think two pods ago. LJ, is that right?
Yeah.
There was Bubba McNasty. I'm not quite sure who you are yet, Bubba McNasty, but your comment was I'm very impressed with your comment. I'll just read it off to anybody who hadn't seen it. So it's great segment on the legalized gambling with the pitfalls and corruption. In particular, I like the comment to not trust a man with 3 nicknames that K-Dot, Conspiracy Kevin, Speedy, Speed Bump, Fat Rat, the Pod God brought up. The fact he knows some nicknames that you got to know me for a while to know some of these nicknames.
Can I interrupt? How many people call you the Pod God? I just want to know.
I don't know any. It's the first time. Bubba McNasty does, and shout out to Bubba
Because I like that nickname.
He added, stay tuned and listen for the promo code for mybookie.ag. Shout out to the people, to the friends of the pod. Maybe we could set a prop bet on the amount of wiggle juice it takes to see LJ Group and under perhaps.
Well,
Bubba, good comment, Bubba. And to answer on the over-under amount of wiggle juice, we've seen it happen. We've seen the wiggle juice convince him to dance. I don't know what the exact number was.
Bubba, I'm going to tell you, LJ's not a lightweight, though. It take a little bit. It take a little bit.
It depends who's making the drinks. If my girl Hannah's making the drinks, then the over-under slips down a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh man! So I wanted to make sure we recognize this amazing comment from old Bubba because I couldn't stop laughing at it. To wrap things up, Pops, we'll go into what we're listening to, and I think you actually you prefaced us earlier that you had an interesting one. So I just want to start off with you. What do you got for what we're listening to?
Well, I might have a picture to send y'all, but I did audio off. Is what I did. I rode home from the river with audio off. And
okay.
I listened to the wheels on the road. I listened to the breeze blowing against the truck. I listened to the eyeglasses bobbing on the dash in that little compartment where it catches all kind of shit. I mean,
someone. I hope someone's like writing this stuff down. This is a poem. This man is spitting off the top of his dome.
I may write this out. Yeah, but I think every now and then I would recommend to everyone listening, go audio off every now and then and just let your mind go. Just listen to the universe, dude. Just listen to the universe.
So
it was wonderful.
Just to bounce back from a conversation we had a while ago, but was this audio off? You chose to do this, or was it like you couldn't figure out how to work your Bluetooth?
No. Hey, very fair question. Fair question. I chose to do this. I absolutely.
Okay.
I chose to do this, and I think probably the precipice of it was that I got on the river. I rode in the boat.
There's a lift word for you.
And you could hear, I mean, you could just think of the different things you hear. You know, I could hear the wind blowing. I could hear the water bouncing, off the boat. I could hear something rattling back there that was not bugging the hell out of me. I could hear, the ever present bird tweeting every now and then. I'm just saying every now and then turn audio off and just listen to the world. And that's what I did. And it was wonderful. It was great.
I think like 80% of millennials listening right now are thinking that's a man that's secure in his own thoughts because, man, I don't know if I can handle thinking for the next hour and a half without some music to distract me.
That's the point, LJ, is we never get time to think.
Yeah, that's the meditation. Yeah.
And actually, I've learned, and we've talked about this before, it's almost better to listen to music than a podcast. I love listening to podcasts and learning things. But then I'm so intrigued in what I'm listening to. Sometimes I don't remember how I got to where I'm going because I'm so into that.
Yeah.
I'd rather listen to some music or audio off and let my thoughts go wherever they want to go. And based on what I'm telling you now, you might think, God, listen to music or podcasts more often. But that's what I listened to this week is audio off. That's what I did.
All right, El.
I like it a lot.
You got anything for what we're listening to?
Yeah, I've been listening to this band. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're called Modely Tuesday. No, I'm just kidding. I've been listening to Stevie Wonder. Just been listening to Stevie Wonder.
I don't know if everyone will
the
get
classic
it,
jams. No, I'm sorry. That was a 3-person text.
Yeah. Who'd you say though? I didn't hear who you said.
Did you say Stevie Wonder? Like
Stevie
for real?
Wonder.
Oh my God, yes. Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah. We well, I guess there's a little bit of story that goes with it too. Haley and Benji Yeager went on the Songs in the Key of Love tour a little while back, and they got to come home with the chairs that they sat in. And since they were moving around their stuff, we got to come home. We brought those chairs home. So Hannah and I were sitting there playing games in them, playing board games, and we were thinking like, well, we want to listen to. And it's like, well, we got to honor the chair. You know, Stevie Wonder's here with us right now. We're going to listen to some Stevie Wonder. So we definitely did that. It was
Is that got Ribbon in the Sky on it? Isn't that in Songs in the Key of Life?
I think so. I mean, I just listened to like the Stevie Wonder Essentials, so I wasn't really paying attention to which albums. But man, Ribbon in the Sky is one of the best songs ever.
Ribbon in the Sky is all-time favorite. It's high on my list, which we're going to still get into at some point. But Ribbon in the Sky is beautiful. Stevie Wonder, good one.
All right. Well, from what we're listening to, I actually threw back a little bit this past week because I was just needed to make sure my cue was good, and I went back and listened to some Illmatic by Nas.
Okay.
Some old school, some 90s rap. I kind of wanted to get into a little bit. And I like a couple of weeks ago, I saw like a debate going on of best Nas albums. And I didn't have any input because I listened to some Nas, but I didn't really I was like, I don't know which one I think's better because I really don't just like deep dive into him as much. It's not like I would like with Kanye West debate. I've listened to him enough. Like I feel like I can hold my own, but the Nas,
you have an answer. Yeah.
I didn't really have a very strong educated answer. So I went and I just listened to Illmatic a couple times through this past week,
which is
really solid album by Nas. So some 90s rap. I know dad's a big fan of the 90s rap over today's rap. I don't know if you're a big Nas guy, but you've made it very clear that you're a 90s rap guy. So
I'm more of a 90s rap guy, no doubt.
Yeah. I want to say real quick on music. I did finish that T-Pain album, and he did not grab the throne. So
nope.
Throwing that out there.
I too listened to that. I guess I could have thrown that in there for what we're listening. But yeah, I'm with you. I finished it.
Me too.
It was okay. It was good. Not great, but
I liked it a lot. But
he never threw that R&B out there that I was really hoping he did. Whoever's listening out there, the throne is up for the taking. We know LJ's made it clear the universe is all listening to our podcast. I don't know if the R&B world is as well. Yeah. But the throne is for the taking, so go out there and get it, somebody.
Yep.
All right, well, that'll do it for another week of the JPP Pod. Remember, next time you're hearing us, the Selection Sunday will have been done. You'll know who's made the tournament for March Madness, and you'll be ready to submit your tournament. You can do it with us. Come shout. You're not coming to beat us because you probably will. You're coming to beat our best listeners. Just do that. We'll post a link wherever you follow us at. It'll be on Twitter, Facebook, or our website at jpppod.com. So come play with us, and if you win, you get to come on here and just talk about how much smarter you are than we are. So love to have you on. All right, that'll do it for another week. Dad, let's get ready for Vegas. Maybe we might record something while we're in Vegas. Who knows? I don't know.
Sounds cool.
That's a good idea.
It's a half-baked idea, but who knows? We might try to do something while we're up.
We do a lot of half-baked ideas. We couldn't handle a full-baked idea.
All right, appreciate you listening. That's another week. Go join my bookie and use TickFlix. Peace out.
Peace.
So I was looking at the Pitsnoggle Player of the Year from last year, and I was looking at some of the superlatives we gave him, and it just made me giggle all over again. Because here's what we wrote about old Cameron Krutwig. He works his arse off. It's a sizable arse at that. He's the king of the pivot foot. He's got a big old butt. He runs on his tippy toes, and he plays in the left tackle. Now that's a dream player right there. Oh man, John Calipari right now is salivating at that. That is your ideal prospect. Who was Krutwig? Was he on that Loyola Chicago team? Yeah, he was on the Loyola team. Are they going to make the tournament? Yep. No, they didn't win their conference tournament, and they don't have a chance yet. Loyola's not going to make it. Damn. So we'll have a new Pitsnoggle award. Maybe I may try to. I don't know why he would, but I may try to see if there's any way we can reach out to old Cameron Krutwig to come talk with us for a second. That would be fab. Or Kevin Pitsnoggle. Find Kevin Pitsnoggle. That would be the best. Both on. If we could together. Okay, so one thing, when this podcast is like 10 years old, can we see how an all Pitsnoggle Award winner team would have been? Like, I think this is the problem. We got a future right here. We're not going to have we're going to have no backcourt. It's going to be, there's no backcourt. It's all forward. It's all forwards and centers. Did you not, LJ? Did you listen to yourself when you described what a Pitsnoggle Award player looks like? He got a big old perfect player. That is not all I heard was perfect player. That is not the same way you describe most point guards. I'll just say that. Oh, Lord. I might have to look and see. What would the all pit snuggle team look like now? Yeah, it would be all 4s and 5s. That's what it'll be. We'd be tough on the ball. We need to play half court, so we need to play half court. Yeah. We don't clear the ball. You don't have to clear it. So we would 3 on 3, half court. I can just imagine going to a court and like we have a pickup game. You can pick anybody you want. The first guy they pick like Jordan or something crazy like Zion Williamson, and we're like, we will take Pittsnuggle or Crutwig. We have back-to-back picks. We'll take Crutwig, please. Yeah. Shout out to you, Cameron. Shout out to Mr. Crutwig.
Hell yeah.